Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2. This is the video on demand. I'm Charlie with Blockspace Media. Bitcoin Season 2 is about new ideas and new conversations on Bitcoin. It's like the technical and the cultural combined, smashed together and mixed up. It's an exciting era for new topics and ideas on the oldest blockchain. So today we are talking with Dillon Healy, BD and partnerships at Bitcoin Magazine, and recently he has been building Tribe BTC, which is a BitPack. But I won't bury the lead too much. I'm just going to bring him up here. And Dillon, welcome to Bitcoin Season 2. It's good to have you.
It is good to be had, dude. Congrats on everything, and happy to be here.
Yeah, so I would ask your background, but I kind of want you just to get right into it. Like, a lot of people use the word DAO, but this is a new word, BitPack, publicly auditable cooperative. Can you tell me about this? Dive into that.
Yeah. Well, it was coined by super genius, super testnet, who, if you're not familiar with, basically just comes up with incredible Bitcoin inventions like every 2 weeks and then moves on to another one. He dropped like an incredible one today, a couple hours ago, which I know you saw.
Yeah, this
So
morning was the hedgehog. That's a whole other podcast.
yeah, like fixed lightning this morning. So basically, he came up with this, and essentially it's a multi-sig with the differentiator being that participants are kind of made public, and it's made a little bit easier to audit who's a member of a multi-sig. So kind of a traditional multi-sig, but introducing public auditability. And initially it was kind of Noster based, and I want to say clunky, but I don't think he kind of intended to build out like a great user experience for it. It kind of moved on to the next ingenious invention, and it just caught my eye as what could be like the foundation of DAOs. Essentially, crowdfunding I think is um, one possibility, but there's so much more that it can be used for. Basically, anything that a community would want to gather around and kind of co-manage assets or manage a treasury through. So yeah, we've been diving in how to make the experience kind of similar to what people are used to on testnet chains.
Yeah, it's we've seen. I mean, it's very clear that like people want to do these things. People want to coordinate. They want to coordinate treasury management. They want to coordinate statements. They want to vote on things, and that's what you're doing with. Is it Tribe or Tribe BTC? What's the word? What's the phrase you're using here?
Yeah, the tribe domain was taken, unfortunately. So maybe when we get to that point, we'll try to scout that out. But yeah, the company's Tribe, and essentially what Tribe is trying to do is just build like an experience and infrastructure for BitPacks, and BitPacks are what I just described, the type of multi-sig that essentially can be thought of as a DAO. And those BitPacks can be made by anyone, like they can be managed by anyone. Our goal is to kind of make it, user friendly and streamline like the best parts of the experience. So you come to Tribe, you can create a BitPack, you can join someone else's BitPack if you were invited. If you're already a member of a BitPack, you can vote and make proposals on the platform and basically have like the full experience of what the BitPack should be in one stand-up website. And then BitPacks will always be like recoverable on their own, and anyone could make one on their own if they wanted to.
Yeah, because I've dabbled, and you've helped kind of handhold me and some other people through the development of it, which I want to ask you kind of about the development in a sec. But like, at first glance, I log in, and for people watching the video, I will probably throw it up on the screen here in a sec. But like it is a very familiar user experience to the other, you might call them DAOs on test nets like Ethereum, where like it's pretty intuitive. I log in with my browser based wallet, with my Xverse, or what other wallet. You support a lot of wallet types.
Actually,
And
just Xverse for now, but we got the teaser up for
okay,
the oil guys who we love, and Magic Eden so far.
gotcha. So you'll support multiple wallets, but right now, logging through my
Yeah.
Xverse, it's familiar. Like I go through the motion. I say I want this name for my BitPack, and then I open it up for people to join. So it's like it's pretty cool how how the platform should look and feel is pretty intuitive, but there are some like key differences because it is Bitcoin. And those are interesting, I think, some in some ways strengths, and there's some kind of features that are wanting. Just what are your like? Could you go into some of those?
Yeah, I mean the like going back to what testnet built, it was again Nostr based, so like a little slow, and the pop up to interact was actually like entering a private key at one point. So I wanted to make something that has the feel of like kind of these apps that are popping up within Bitcoin Season 2, a lot of which are kind of like inspired by what's happening in Ordinals, and just like this whole push for DeFi on Bitcoin. So people are clearly used to that style experience on ETH, and also just taking the inspiration that there's over $40 billion of DAOs on Ethereum right now, and like there's has that process in past proposals. So basically trying to get as close as we can without official smart contracts to that feel, and yeah, it's kind of how we got like the X first pop up. You sign certain messages. We try to make the user experience as friendly as possible. You got to give me as many pointers as you can to improve it. But essentially, when you create a BitPack, like you can make a couple selections on the form. You can make a name and a description, and then you can choose what the voting threshold should be. So we do it percentage based. You can choose between like 51% to 100%, and we'll basically round up based on how many people join. So if 3 people joined and you chose 51%, it would be a 2 of 3 threshold. You'd need 2 votes to pass a proposal. And then the other thing you're selecting on that page is we had an option for if you want to crowdfund. You could make a BitPack without crowdfunding, which is just like inviting people to join a BitPack and be a member, or you could mandate that you want to raise funds, which I think is a pretty cool feature. And probably, I think what will be should be one of the most used features, because it's an easy way to fund a project on chain, whether it's like Season 2 style or just traditional Bitcoin, or traditional company style where you're raising money on chain without any of the paperwork. So that's a good option. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the first thing that comes to mind is like, the amount of people I chat with, you might call them founders in the ordinal space. There's a hurdle you have to get through in that you have to pay on-chain fees in order to inscribe your assets. Like that is often a barrier for a lot of people. And so there's been various versions of like successes and failures of people trying to like raise money for this stuff. You've designed this clearly to be familiar to the ordinals crowd, but then also, I mean, this solves, or at least it gives them a tool early on to like raise money for these types of things, and in that process allow the people who contribute to have some input and participation in the actual like distribution execution of funds.
Yeah, I think like the initial idea for crowdfunding definitely came from the camp that is not interested in ordinals at all, which is actually pretty interesting, because it could be like meetups or small startups, or there's a good example of an idea for one that was like donation based. Like, all right, here's the invitation. You click the link. You're being asked to commit $500 in Bitcoin to the treasury, and then the treasury is finalized, the BitPack's finalized, and like the first proposal is going to be to donate or whatever you were told that the BitPack is for. So it actually applies pretty well to like non-inscription, non-ordinal world use cases. But I'm just going off what we've seen on other chains. I'm pretty sure kind of like the speculative world of Bitcoin is going to be the biggest use case for something like this.
I mean, yeah, we've seen empirically that speculation drives people building things. Um, and I do like to see stuff like this being built because I've always felt that in the this is kind of a cypherpunk idea of incorporating and coordinating on chain using the tools available to us in these distributed networks. Um, Talk to me a little bit about, though, you have very intentionally designed it to facilitate ordinals early on, because as it is, it's like it's launched, and I believe I can custody Inscriptions do it right now, can't I?
Yeah, so you can receive, and then obviously as part of receiving, you can hold within the treasury and like display and view inscriptions held within the treasury. And then kind of the cool part that we finished last week is sending, which is essentially creating a proposal. And instead of, so when you create a proposal within a BitPack, what we're realizing is you can kind of just add different action items, and there's a lot of optionality we can put there. So for now, we have just normal proposal that doesn't include sending funds or anything. It would be like just vote on this because we want to know what the group thinks, what the winning vote is. Another option would be sending funds, so like normal Bitcoin in the treasury, and then you would kind of just put a receive address. People would vote. If the vote passed, the transaction's instantly broadcasted. And then what we finalized was sending inscriptions. So basically, the same exact thing for native Bitcoin, but you're sending the inscription to a receive address.
Yeah, so that's actually kind of my thought. So I've been testing this out with the Ordinals Discord. We call it the Ordicord. And my thought is like, this isn't because this is not even we don't even take donations at the for the Discord level. But what we do want to do is like make statements like here's how we want to conduct ourselves, here's what we think. Like it's a very intuitive way to make like joint statements or just vote on proposals. Which I think is quite compelling as a feature. And I'm not aware of anything on like which uses Bitcoin itself as the like layer to sign into these messages. Like um, we've seen various like types of timestamping and posting of messages, but not like a coordinated message signing. Um, yeah, you talked about some of the features, and then this is actually one I think the more interesting part of the conversation because you got this to beta. You just now in the past I think hour just tweeted it out that it's open, live, and in beta. Um, but you hinted at some features I think which you which I don't know how far you are along in like developing these, but they have some pretty cool things you can do, and they take advantage of some new ideas being built in Bitcoin. I'm gonna let you talk about
Yeah,
that. What are these
yeah.
cool
I
things?
can start at like immediate doable ideas today. So like when I just described the things you can do with the proposal, like we're kind of thinking of them as action items that you can add on to a proposal. So we have sending inscriptions, sending Bitcoin right now. Some other cool stuff that we want to add like immediately is buying BTC assets or inscriptions within the BitPack. So having the feel that you're doing it like within the actual DAO or BitPack and not leaving. So I think we're going to work with the friends at Magic Eden to kind of do like a module type setup where you're actually staying within the proposal, you're voting to buy an asset, and then it's votable. Once it passes, it's like instantly broadcast and purchased into the treasury. Same thing with selling, which would be a pretty cool unlock. Like that doesn't exist anywhere yet. And then basically anything that can be done.
Would that
Yeah,
be
go
like
ahead.
would that be using a multi-sig to sign a partially signed Bitcoin transaction?
Yeah,
Because
and then
I
just
know that people have tried to do that, and it's kind of technically complicated on the back end.
yeah,
Um,
that's what we're trying to like obfuscate away. So it just feels like you're buying. The one thing about this is like it won't be fast. Like this is not a thing for snipers. It's like you need to coordinate people voting, which I've learned is the most difficult part of a DAO in general. Not just what we're working on, like getting people to care and pay attention and vote. But when they do and they pass, it's like yeah, you can instantly broadcast a purchase from the BitPack, and same thing with selling. So we're going to work on that kind of in tandem. And then like all this cool stuff that's popped up from Bitcoin season 2, like we're pretty confident there's ways to work that into the BitPack experience. So like the friends at Liquidium where you can loan out, I think the cool idea would be to do that as part of the proposal, and like voting for an asset to be instantly deposited as something to be lent and then withdrawn. So basically taking these things that like you do on your own and just adding them to proposals to kind of give people as much optionality once they're a member of a BitPack as possible. Yeah, and those are just like the short-term stuff that I think is pretty doable within a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, and that even or you could be on the other side of the say the Liquidium deal, and I'm gonna get crucified for thinking of it like this, but like, you can lend out part of your treasury for yield on that. And it might make more sense maybe you might consider the BitPack the institutional party in this, and the
Yeah.
lendee, the person taking the loan out on their inscription, uh, the retail. So it's interesting to kind of think about this. So let's talk
And then
about
I know you were talking about like some some longer term stuff. So like
yeah.
this is not as immediate as like figuring out how to buy and sell inscriptions, but like some of the longer term unlocks for BitPacks in general, I think are like main problems are scaling these. So I told you as of right now, we're limited to kind of like 65-person BitPacks. And that's just because they kind of become non-standard transactions due to how large the multi-sig is after that level. Um, there's also like some immediate needs that people clearly want, which is I think like gating access based on assets held. So being able to like own an asset, say this BitPack is built for this asset, and if you own it, you're instantly kind of accepted in, and if you sell it, you're instantly kind of kicked out. That's pretty clunky and hard to do on Bitcoin right now, as you can imagine. Like multi-sigs are kind of specifically made for the opposite of that. Like they're made and they're secure, and people can't just jump in and make a vote on behalf of your multi-sig. And there was another pretty cool unlock that we talked about.
Yeah.
Being able to come and go, being able to scale, and but yeah, essentially what we learned is that hopefully, knock on wood, Frost is something that can unlock a lot of these on chain and like do it in at like the script level in the right way. So like there's ways to do it now, which I would consider not exactly the right way at like the layer level or relying on some sort of centralization. But if the 5 experts in the world on Frost can figure out how to help us, I think what I'm being told is that this is one of the potential solutions for that.
So okay, because I have a high level understanding of what Frost is, and for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, there's like 5 podcasts on Frost and like 2 or 3 write-ups, and then just a handful of people who even build this. But Frost is just like in one line, it's just a new way of doing multi-signature, but multi-sig with a bunch more feature sets. And instead of a bunch of parties signing, it's like no one party. It's not unlocked by each party doesn't have a single key. Rather, there's like parts of keys they have, and it allows you to get around the fact, like right now, Tribe, the BitPack model, you can't add people into the BitPack after the window of like registering closes, right?
Yeah, so you can't like we can route around it at our level. It's just clunky. Like you basically what you have to do is recreate the BitPack, and like we did that on the back end for a little bit, but the situation could arise where there's a new member every hour, and then it just gets very messy. So we took it out for now, and ultimately want to find like a sustainable, scalable way to make these more flexible for communities that are like constantly changing. Hopefully there'll be communities that are much more solid and like I just think there'll be like use cases for any community you could think of. So there'll be communities that really don't change membership for long periods of time, but then like as we get into these speculative assets on Bitcoin, like as you know, they're changing every minute. So we need like a better long-term solution to actually solve something like that.
Now, I don't know enough about Bitcoin script to like be able to know this, but like when you talk about being able to just gate access to a BitPack by like, do you own this inscription or not? That seems like a very complex thing to try to do at the script level. Do you have like a yes or no from the Frost guys? Do they lean one way or the other? What's the thought
Yeah,
process
well,
there?
if you don't know about Bitcoin script, this is 2 guys who definitely do not know about Bitcoin script talking about it because I know way less than you. So, yeah, I mean, we're having like as many conversations and as possible, and like you said, there's literally like it seems like 5 people out there working on Frost. So, trying to get just brainstorming sessions and ideas rolling on the best way to do it. what makes me optimistic is that like multiple people have said that like this is, if there's a way to do it natively, like at the script level, at the protocol level, this is it. So and alternatively, like I think people have already kind of experimented with solutions to do it at like a centralized or layer level. So worst case, it can kind of be done there. But I just think this is like the first product I've ever built on Bitcoin. If you're building on Bitcoin, like demands the ultimate, like you got to do things right, really. Like
Yeah, because
if you're
this is
gonna
your
build
first
something
time,
on
like
Bitcoin.
this is your first time being like a founder slash product lead and like even leading software development. Like that's, jumping in the deep end right at the outset. Um, I don't know. You've been doing this for months, half a year now, I think, right? Um, you just talk me through just the process, the learning process, because I mean, from experience, I can empathize, like the confusion, the stumbling blocks, the lack of clarity of even what tools are available to you building on Bitcoin. Just tell me about this experience so far.
Yeah, it feels so dumb in hindsight, like just the mistakes that you make, like spending a month doing this, like built on Nostr, and then realizing that like people who use Nostr are not interested in this at all. So just like setbacks like that. I don't know. You have a couple of those, and I think you get a little bit more efficient and like know your customer base a little bit more, which has been the best. And like getting feedback from people has been very helpful. People who are actually like, putting money into finding issues and improvements has been great because I don't know, the long term potential of these is like we said, just the potential that basically what DAOs have done is there's been all sorts of like issues and complaints and exploits and stuff, but as of today, again, $40 billion in DAOs, and like major organizations in this industry are completely reliant and running off of them. And if we think all of this stuff that's been built on other chains is going to come to Bitcoin eventually, then I think this will be a major part of that. Basically, just coordination of groups and communities on chain.
And you talk about like you mentioned, I don't know if you meant this, that there's been some like money or some financial incentive to push development of tech like Frost a little bit further or faster, just because like there is now this massive user demand. I mean, I remember like the pitch for Frost, as I heard it before, was like, well, this improves maybe institutional custody. It improves like custody for users, which is really important. But like, there's not a lot of people, as far as I'm aware, like banging down the door to be like, we need we need Frost developed. We need to incorporate it, at these wallets. But this, I can imagine the pacing of like and demand of development from we would call them ordinals degens is significant. It's kind of funny that um, I feel like I intuitively knew it, but it would come around and touch what I would consider to be like serious Bitcoin development. Um, so I don't know. What are your thoughts just on the ordinals incentive in general for broader development on Bitcoin?
I don't know if I told you this like when we first met, but that was instantly the first thing that clicked about ordinals to me in like February 2023 or whenever we started talking about it, was just the fact that it basically was the proof that there was demand for speculation on Bitcoin. Like that's essentially what ordinals proved at the base level. And that obvious, it was so obvious that that was going to spur innovation for scaling solutions, like improving Lightning, driving up fees on chain, improving, I mean, like just incentives for people to build all these different layer twos, venture coming back to Bitcoin, which is huge, like very slept on aspect of how things actually progress and move forward. Like the venture industry in crypto is an insane amount of money that basically just results in massive Ponzi schemes and like collapsed projects and not that we want to bring that to Bitcoin, but like
But
it seemed like
As Reindl says, it also brings like, we have all this work on ZK rollups and maybe they're good or maybe they're worth it or maybe they're
yeah,
not.
just
But we have
experimentation. Like
but we have made significant leaps forward in just zero knowledge proofs and zero knowledge architecture.
yeah,
These are important things and tools that we can use.
And
to
more
build
so
this.
from the builder's perspective too. It's like if you were building something and there's, foundations handing out printed money from coins on other chains, or VCs writing $100 million checks, like you're going to go over there instead of working on something on Bitcoin. So shifting the incentive mechanism a little bit, like I think Ordinals kind of spearheaded that, just because it was very clear that demand was going to go crazy and all this infrastructure needed to get built, which led to higher fees from the on-chain activity, which is just like a never-ending loop of, basically good things for Bitcoin, which is why I never really got the argument against it, because like whether it's spam or not, like I think it's net good for Bitcoin. I still don't get the arguments that it's not. So I think it's led to all of this. And yeah, like the very few Frost guys out there that we've talked to, they're building different products, like very different products, trying to just innovate around multi-sig and come up with new ways to use multi-sig. But it did click to them right away that this was one of those ways to use multi-sig that is just, wasn't really thought of before, but can clearly benefit from Frost. So they're very into it, which is a great first step.
Yeah, and so maybe instead of there just being 5 people working on Frost, there could be 500 people working on Frost type implementations. Um, what are your what are your thoughts on just coordination tools and coordination mechanisms in general in crypto and decentralization? Do you envision Bitcoin having like coordinative mechanisms on top of it in the future? This is a kind of a big question, but you're one of the few people I would say building like types of like overlays to coordinate use and signing of transactions and messages on Bitcoin. Just what are your general thoughts on this over the next several years?
Mm. Yeah, if you mean like, can it be a solution for something like the problem we see with BIPs? Like, how do people truly coordinate? Like, how people act on Bitcoin decisions they make? I think it'll just be a little bit more free market and like public view into what decision making is like. So even if there's never like a bit focused BitPack made, if there's a bunch of BitPacks made and you can kind of see the way people are coordinating and see like where the money's flowing, where votes are flowing, and it's just on chain, it's just people voting with their wallets, then I think that's good for just understanding like free market governance and what people really think and what they're trending towards. So I think it can only be a good thing, but it's a huge thing to solve. So I have no idea what the right answer to that is, to be honest.
Me neither. It's just I spent the past few years kind of being envious of getting to vote on whatever goofy DAO there was on ETH or Solana over the past few years and being like, this is really cool. Like, I just wish this were on Bitcoin. And now it's here and I love trying it out. I'm excited to do a BitPack for my local Bitcoin meetup and then also the Order Cord. You are in beta right now. What's your raise your head on like the timeline and as you progress towards like maybe pushing this out into the ordinals and Bitcoin ecosystem?
Yeah, so I mean, it's fully functional now. Like I think a beta is trying to get feedback and find bugs and small issues and just improvements, add small features that don't break things, like adding optionality to proposals like that, and getting a initial user base, getting some BitPacks out there, and like seeing how they function, seeing what can be made better, and yeah, basically taking it from there.
Cool. Well, you have any final thoughts or comments on BitPack or even just the ordinals landscape in general?
I mean, it's just been an insane year. It's been the most positive year, I think, for Bitcoin in general, which is why why like the camps have separated is like truly broken my brain. I think it's been exposed like people that understand Bitcoin game theory and people who don't. That's been my biggest takeaway from this year. I think it's good for Bitcoin, and it's kind of like this it's kind of the start. Like, scary to say that out loud, but we basically had NFTs come to Bitcoin, and we're about to have fungible tokens come to Bitcoin, which on every other chain dwarf NFTs. So it could get scary and even more chaotic, but it's just good for Bitcoin. People are using the chain, so we love to see it.
Well, as my good friend Cypher says, Bitcoin is only as decentralized as the people using it. So we would hope that there's a more dynamic range and cohort of people using and operating and building on Bitcoin. Dillon, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm excited to run this back sometime after you reach yet another milestone with BitPack. And I, if for one, am excited to, kind of how we gave new life to NFTs by calling them inscriptions. Maybe DAOs will find some product market fit and sustainable use case once we start thinking of them as more publicly auditable cooperatives. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you are watching this, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, at BlockSpacePod on Twitter, BlockSpace Media on YouTube. I'm Charlie Spears. Make sure to catch us on the newsletter. See you later.